There's a level of discipline that doesn't motivate you. It doesn't cheer you on. It doesn't promise rewards. It doesn't pat you on the back or whisper, "You can do this." It terrifies you. Not because it shouts or forces you to act. Not because it punishes when you fail. It terrifies because it waits. Patient, unforgiving, relentless in silence, like a shadow that never leaves your side. It doesn't plead with your emotions. It doesn't ask if you feel ready. It doesn't pause to negotiate with your fatigue, your fear, or your doubts. It simply exists, and it expects you to exist alongside it. Every day, every hour, every choice you make, or fail to make, is quietly measured against it. It notices everything. It never forgets. And while others search for motivation, for excitement, for shortcuts, it simply moves forward. This is the scariest level of discipline you've ever seen. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need recognition. It doesn't reward. It doesn't punish. It simply shapes you, silently, invisibly. And one day, without ceremony, without warning, you realize nothing will ever stop you again. Your doubts, your fears, your hesitation, they have no hold. And once you meet it, once you fully step into it, it changes everything. The way you act, the way you think, the way the world bends to your consistency. And from that moment forward, you are no longer a person who hopes to act. You are someone who simply does. Most people think discipline is about effort. Wake up early, push harder, sacrifice more. They imagine it as a battle against laziness, a test of willpower, a series of heroic moments that feel like victory. But that is not real discipline. That is temporary resistance. A spark that burns brightly only when you feel like lighting it. It flickers, fades, and dies when life grows heavy. It falters when obstacles appear. It collapses under pressure, under pain, under fatigue. Real discipline is entirely different. It doesn't negotiate with the mind. It doesn't argue with your doubts or debate with your fears. It doesn't beg for motivation or wait for inspiration to arrive. It doesn't care if you are tired, if you are overwhelmed, or if you feel broken. It doesn't pause for comfort, for distraction, for indulgence. It simply acts. Always. Without hesitation. Without emotion. Without delay. It moves silently, invisibly, like a force you cannot stop or fight. And when you confront it, when you step fully into it, you feel it. It is unstoppable. It doesn't tire. It doesn't quit. It doesn't wait for you to catch up or feel ready. It continues, quietly, consistently, day after day. And eventually, you begin to move with it. Your body, your mind, your habits, they align with its rhythm. You stop asking if you can do it. You simply do. Whether you are ready or not, whether you feel motivated or not. It transforms you. It reshapes your life. It makes you someone who no longer waits for inspiration, because action has become inevitable. Chapter 1. The silent version. The scariest discipline doesn't look impressive. There are no grand entrances, no dramatic gestures, no flashy workouts meant to make people stare, no viral grind, montages to celebrate effort or prove how hard you're working. It is quiet, predictable, repetitive, boring, almost painfully so. And that is exactly the trap. Because while the world waits for motivation to strike, for inspiration to arrive, for the perfect moment to act, this discipline has already begun. While others debate whether they feel ready, it moves quietly, almost invisibly. While others procrastinate, make excuses, or hope for a surge of inspiration, it executes. It doesn't ask for your attention. It doesn't plead for recognition or validation. It doesn't pause for your doubts, your fears, or your hesitation. It simply exists, and it simply acts. Over and over, day after day, unseen, silent. No excitement, no drama, no applause, no emotion, just execution. Relentless and unstoppable, like the tide eroding the shore, silently, invisibly, until everything has changed. It is patient. It is unforgiving. It does not care if you notice it or not. It does not care if anyone else sees it. It moves forward regardless. And when you finally notice, when you finally realize what has been happening quietly all along, you understand that this discipline is not just strong. It is inevitable. It cannot be stopped. Chapter 2. No internal discussion. Most people fail before they even begin. They talk themselves out of action before a single step is taken. They ask themselves, "Do I feel like it today? Is now the right moment? Maybe I'll start tomorrow." They negotiate endlessly with their own minds, trapped in hesitation, paralyzed by questions, waiting for the perfect alignment of motivation, energy, and will. But this level of discipline does not negotiate. It does not ask for permission. It does not pause to consider your doubts, your fears, your endless excuses. It does not listen to your mind begging for delay or your heart pleading for rest. The decision was made yesterday. The schedule was set. The action is inevitable. It does not depend on desire. It does not depend on mood. It does not wait for fleeting motivation. It does not pause for conditions to feel perfect. It moves forward anyway. No argument. No fatigue. No fear. Nothing can stop it. It quietly dominates time itself, bending days, hours, and moments to its rhythm. Even when the mind screams, later, not today, it persists. It repeats, day after day, hour after hour. And as it repeats, it builds more than consistency. It builds power. It builds mastery. It builds an identity so unshakable that even doubt itself begins to surrender. This is not temporary effort. This is not heroic bursts of energy. This is permanent transformation. It silently molds you into someone unstoppable. Chapter 3. Emotions lose their power. This is where it becomes terrifying. Because here, your emotions stop controlling you. Tired? You act. Exhausted? You act. Unmotivated? You act. Afraid? You act. Sad? You act. Hungry? Frustrated? Confused? You act anyway. It doesn't matter what's brewing inside. This discipline doesn't argue with your feelings. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't attempt to conquer them. It simply renders them irrelevant. Your emotions will scream. They will fight. They will plead, beg, claw for a pause, for mercy, for rest. They will try to convince you that your energy, your body, your mind are too weak, too fragile, too broken to continue. They will shout, whisper, and haunt every decision. And yet, you move anyway. Every single time. Every single day. No hesitation. No delay. No matter how heavy, how dark, how impossible it feels. And over time, something terrifying happens. Your emotions, the very forces that once ruled your life, the voices that dictated your choices, begin to surrender. They realize their threats no longer matter. Their protests are powerless. The fatigue, the fear, the doubt. They can try, they can fight, but you are already beyond them. You have become something unstoppable. And when that moment finally arrives, when the surrender is complete, you realize a truth that chills the soul. Nothing in the world, no circumstance, no obstacle, no internal voice can stop you. You are no longer a slave to your emotions. You are the master of them. Chapter 4. Identity takes over. At this stage, you're no longer trying. Trying implies effort. Trying implies hesitation. Trying implies doubt and negotiation. You don't try anymore. You simply act. You move. You show up. You take the step, the action, the work, regardless of how you feel. You're not forming habits. You are becoming the very embodiment of action. The part of you that moves regardless of mood, regardless of circumstance, regardless of desire or fear. Discipline is no longer a choice. It is a fact of your existence. It is stitched into your bones. It runs through your blood. It occupies your mind without question. It doesn't seek pride. It doesn't need reward. It doesn't ask for validation. It doesn't wait for recognition or applause. Like breathing, it just happens. You wake up. You do the work. No drama. No excuses. No fanfare. No justification required. You exist as someone who cannot not act. Someone whose body, mind, and identity are aligned with action. Someone who cannot be swayed by whim, by desire, by fatigue, by distraction. Your identity and your discipline are now inseparable. They are one. You are one. And in that unity, in that inevitability, you become something unstoppable. A force that moves quietly, yet cannot be resisted. And that is terrifying to anyone still waiting to feel ready. Chapter 5. Why most people can't handle it. This level of discipline terrifies most people because it removes the stories they rely on. No redemption arcs. No peaks of excitement. No dramatic highs to chase. No excuses to hide behind. No resets to restart tomorrow. It doesn't allow guilt. It doesn't allow celebration. It doesn't pause for comfort or indulgence. It simply continues. Day after day, hour after hour, silent, unmoving, relentless. And for most, that is unbearable. They crave chaos. They crave drama. They crave attention, recognition, and the emotional highs that come with struggle and spectacle. They cannot imagine a force that continues without reward, without fanfare, without narrative. They are addicted to stories, to meaning, to justification, and this discipline offers none of it. It doesn't care. It doesn't adapt. It doesn't apologize. It doesn't slow down for anyone. It doesn't wait for your permission. It doesn't respond to emotion. It simply exists and moves forward. And that is what makes it terrifying, because it exists outside of the world most people live in. It is untouchable by fear, laziness, doubt, or distraction. It does not bend to convenience or circumstance. It quietly conquers time itself. It builds power, identity, and unshakable momentum while the rest of the world waits for signs, drama, or motivation. And when you finally encounter it, you understand why so few can withstand it, why so few ever achieve it. It is calm, invisible, inevitable, and unstoppable. Chapter 6. What it builds over time. This is how impossible things are created. Not with spectacle. Not with heroic bursts of energy that burn out quickly. Not with sudden inspiration, dramatic transformation, or fleeting motivation. No, this is different. It happens quietly, relentlessly, without applause, without recognition, without anyone noticing, until the results cannot be ignored. While others chase motivation, excitement, or the next emotional high, this discipline compounds. It doesn't spike. It doesn't rely on adrenaline or drama. It accumulates. Step by step, day by day, moment by moment, it quietly shapes the extraordinary, carving greatness out of the ordinary. And one day, people call it talent. They call it luck. They call it overnight success. They never see the calm terror behind it. The unwavering, silent force of someone who no longer negotiates with themselves. Someone whose identity, action, and discipline are inseparable. Someone whose body, mind, and soul move with precision and inevitability. And when you see it, when you truly see it, you understand why it is terrifying. Not because it punishes, not because it is loud, not because it intimidates, but because it is unstoppable. It doesn't wait. It doesn't rest. It doesn't falter for doubt, fear, or fatigue. It simply exists, quietly, inevitably, reshaping the world and everyone who dares to measure themselves against it. And that, above all else, is the scariest level of discipline you will ever witness. The scariest discipline doesn't yell. It doesn't punish. It doesn't threaten or demand. It doesn't plead with your emotions, your fears, or your doubts. It is calm, steady, relentless, unwavering. It doesn't need drama. It doesn't wait for your permission. It doesn't care if you are ready or if you think you are. It doesn't bend to mood, whim, or circumstance. It is already decided. It exists beyond desire, beyond fear, beyond fatigue, beyond hesitation. It moves with inevitability, quietly reshaping reality around it. And when you reach it, when you fully inhabit it, motivation becomes meaningless. Excuses lose all their power. Fear becomes irrelevant. Obstacles shrink. Time itself seems to bend, compress, and align with its rhythm. Your body moves. Your mind moves. Your life moves. And in that moment, you realize nothing can stop you. No doubt. No hesitation. No external force. No circumstance. No fatigue. No challenge can interfere. You have become something unstoppable, calm, silent, unshakable, a force that does not negotiate, does not question, and does not tire. The scariest level of discipline is no longer a concept. It is yours. It inhabits your body, your mind, your identity. It has transformed you. And now, the world moves according to your discipline, not your desire. If this changed how you see discipline, subscribe to The Cipher Phantom, because the quiet rules are always the most dangerous ones.